Welcome to English Easy Hub. Join us as we ignite the flames of your English learning journey together.
Please subscribe to watch and embark on your English learning journey. Don't miss out on the exciting content. In this insightful dialogue between Simon and his teacher, the focus is on the technique of shadowing as a powerful tool to improve English pronunciation and listening skills. Shadowing involves mimicking native speakers in real time, paying close attention not just to the words, but also to the rhythm, stress, and intonation patterns. Throughout the conversation, Simon seeks guidance on various aspects of shadowing, ranging from pronunciation challenges like the R and TH sounds to understanding fast speech and maintaining progress over time. The teacher provides valuable tips, emphasizing consistency, gradual difficulty, and the importance of incorporating shadowing into daily practice.
Hi, teacher. I've been reading a lot about the technique of shadowing to improve my pronunciation. Could you explain how this works in terms of mimicking native speakers? What are the basic principles behind it?
Great question, Simon. Shadowing involves listening to native speakers and repeating what they say immediately and as closely as possible. The idea is to mimic not just the words, but the rhythm, intonation, and stress patterns. The more accurately you replicate these, the closer your pronunciation will be to a native speaker's. Essentially, you're trying to shadow them. You have to do it in real time without pausing the recording so that you get used to the flow and natural pace of language.
That sounds really interesting. Do I need to understand every word before starting to shadow, or should I just focus on pronunciation first?
It's a good idea to understand the words to some extent, but you don't need to be fully fluent in the vocabulary before you start. The main focus at first should be on how the words sound and the rhythm of the speech. Think of it like learning a song. First, you imitate the melody, and later you can add the meaning. The key is to train your mouth to produce sounds that are natural to native speakers.
I see. I've heard some people suggest recording myself while shadowing. Do you think that's beneficial?
Absolutely, Simon. Recording yourself is incredibly helpful. When you listen to your recording, you can compare your pronunciation to the native speakers. This will highlight areas where you might be off, whether it's the tone, stress, or specific sounds. Over time, you'll start noticing patterns in your own speech and what you need to work on.
I often find it difficult to match the intonation of native speakers. Any tips for improving that?
Intonation is tricky because it's not just about pitch. It's about the rise and fall of your voice depending on the sentence's structure. One way to practice is by focusing on the natural melody of sentences. Try repeating the phrases from recordings in chunks, mimicking not just the words but also the pauses, rises, and falls. Pay attention to how a sentence might go up in pitch at the beginning and fall at the end. The more you mimic this pattern, the more natural your speech will sound.
That makes sense. But what if I'm having trouble with specific sounds, like the R or TH sounds in English?
The classic R and TH. These are particularly challenging because they don't exist in many other languages. For the R sound, try to make it less of a roll and more of a slight vibration at the back of your mouth. For the K sound, place your tongue between your teeth and practice the difference between the two. The voiceless like in think, and the voiced is like in this. Slow down and exaggerate the sound initially, and then gradually speed it up as it feels more natural.
I think that will help a lot. But sometimes, I struggle with understanding fast speech. Is it still worth shadowing when the speaker is talking quickly?
Yes, Simon, definitely. Shadowing fast speech is actually a fantastic exercise. It challenges your listening and your ability to respond in real time. Start by focusing on individual words and phrases, and try to catch the overall rhythm. You don't have to understand every word at first. As you practice more, Your ear will adapt to picking up words faster, and soon, you'll be able to follow along more easily, even at a fast pace.
Interesting. I guess that means I should start with easier content and gradually move to more difficult material?
Exactly. Start with content that's at or just above your current level. As you get more comfortable, you can increase the complexity. This can include anything from podcasts or news reports to movies or TV shows. The goal is to stretch your limits without overwhelming yourself. Also, use content that you enjoy. It'll keep you motivated, and you'll be more likely to stick with it.
I've noticed that my accent changes a bit after shadowing for a while, but when I speak on my own, it tends to slip back to my original accent. How do I maintain the improvements?
That's a common issue, Simon. The key to maintaining your progress is consistent practice. Even when you're not shadowing, try to incorporate what you've learned into your daily conversations. This could mean consciously applying the intonation patterns, rhythm, and pronunciation you've practiced. Think of it as building muscle memory. If you keep practicing it in natural conversations, it'll start to feel more automatic over time.
That makes sense. How often should I practice shadowing for the best results?
Ideally, you should practice shadowing every day, even if it's just for 15 to 20 minutes. Consistency is much more important than long, infrequent sessions. If you practice regularly, even for short periods, you'll see more lasting improvement than if you cram it all into a single session once a week.
That's a good tip. But what if I'm shadowing a recording and I get stuck on a part of the sentence? Should I just move on, or should I keep trying to perfect that segment?
If you get stuck, it's best not to get frustrated. It's fine to move on and come back to that tricky part later. However, after your shadowing session, you can go back and work specifically on the difficult parts. Break them down slowly, isolate the problem areas, and practice them until they feel more natural. Sometimes, even just a few repetitions can make a huge difference.
Got it. Do you recommend shadowing content with a variety of accents, or should I focus on one accent for consistency?
That's an excellent point, Simon. While focusing on one accent helps you develop consistency and clarity in your speech, exposing yourself to different accents is also useful. It trains your ear to understand various ways English can be spoken. If you want to sound like a specific type of speaker, say a British or American accent, then stick with that accent for the time being. But later on, try to listen to a range of accents to improve your overall listening comprehension.
I see. I guess this technique works well for both listening and speaking skills. But what about my writing? Will shadowing help with that, too?
It might not directly improve your writing, but it definitely helps your overall language sense, including sentence structure and vocabulary. The more you listen to native speakers, the more you'll pick up natural expressions and phrases, which you can then incorporate into your writing. Shadowing improves your fluency and makes you more comfortable with the language, which in turn benefits your writing style and flow.
I hadn't thought about it that way. Is there any danger of overdoing it with shadowing?
It's possible to overdo it, just like with any form of practice. If you practice too much without taking breaks, you might start to feel burnout or frustrated. The key is to balance shadowing with other learning methods, such as active conversation, reading, and vocabulary building. It's also important to vary your practice to keep things fresh and engaging.
Great advice. Do you think shadowing is effective for all types of learners, or are there some who might find it less helpful?
Shadowing is generally effective for most learners, especially those who are auditory or kinesthetic learners. However, some visual learners might find it harder to engage with just listening and repeating. If that's the case, it's important to pair shadowing with other methods, such as reading along with the transcript or watching the video while shadowing. The key is to find what works best for you and adapt it to your strengths.
Thanks, teacher. I feel a lot more confident about incorporating shadowing into my study routine now. I'll start practicing more regularly and keep track of my progress.
You're very welcome, Simon. Keep at it, and remember that language learning is a journey. Consistency and patience are your best friends. I'm excited to hear about your progress. Keep up the good work.
The core takeaway from this conversation is that shadowing is a highly effective method for mastering both pronunciation and listening comprehension. By listening to native speakers and mimicking their speech, learners can better grasp the natural flow, intonation, and rhythm of the language. The dialogue also highlights the importance of recording oneself, regularly practicing, and gradually increasing the complexity of content. While shadowing primarily boosts speaking and listening skills, it indirectly enhances writing by exposing learners to authentic sentence structures and vocabulary. Ultimately, the key to success is persistence, patience, and adapting the technique to individual learning styles. Simon is now better equipped to incorporate shadowing into his routine, with a deeper understanding of how to maintain and expand his language skills.
Thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe, like, comment, and share to keep the English learning journey alive.